Well, the number of insolvent German companies has risen to the highest level in 10 years as Europe's biggest economy continues to struggle. Joining us with more is DW correspondent Chiponda Chimpelu from Berlin. Good evening, Chiponda. What do the latest figures show?
Thanks for having me. Well, during the first half of this year, 11,900 companies were registered as insolvent. So that means that they were unable to meet their financial obligations. And that is according to data from Credit Reform, which is a company that provides debt collection services. Now, the latest figure is 9.4% higher than it was during the same period of last year. Businesses in Germany are still struggling with low demand, rising costs, and uncertainty, mainly due to the US's unpredictable trade policies. Now, for companies that were already financially overstretched, the situation has become harder, and that is because they cannot easily get access to credit, also because of high interest rates. And that is why the number of firms becoming insolvent is at a decade high. Now, despite hopes of an economic resurgence with a new government, Germany is still stuck in an economic and structural crisis, Credit Reform says.
But Chiponda, how is the insolvency trend affecting the economy?
The economic costs of the company insolvencies in the first half of this year could be around 33 billion euros, and that is what the data from Credit Reform shows. The average loss for every insolvency is rising, and the number of jobs lost as a result increased. Around 141,000 employees worked in the affected companies, and that is an increase of 6% from last year. Now, the insolvency trend goes beyond business. The number of people who are also insolvent rose more than 6% in the first half of this year. The rising cost of living in Germany is hurting individuals, but it will be unlikely that that will be changing anytime soon because one of the drivers of the rise of the cost of living is the housing crisis. But construction of homes will not pick up anytime soon. As an industry, construction had the third highest insolvencies due to rising costs linked to materials, materials costs, and of course, personnel and interest rates. So the trends affecting companies are also having an impact on ordinary Germans. And as long as households here continue to experience financial pressure, domestic consumption will be affected too.
So when can a turnaround be expected, Chiponda?
The number of companies becoming insolvent actually rose at a slower pace in the first half of this year than it did last year. And perhaps it could be a sign that a peak could be reached soon. And of course, the new government is promising to do more to make it easier to do business in Germany. And this week, the government actually approved billions in tax relief to help the economy out of the crisis. And companies will also be able to write off machinery, at least some machinery, from July 1st. But while this reform does improve the situation somewhat, it doesn't do much to help companies that are already facing difficulties meeting their financial obligations. So other policy changes may be needed. And of course, lower personnel costs and interest rates could also do something to, at least a little bit, to help the businesses that are already struggling.
All right. Thank you so much, Chiponda, for joining us and bringing us the latest from Berlin.